And for more NASA videos, hit subscribe.
LOX tank.
Pressurizing.
SSC hydraulic pump control on.
On.
CLCDR pad B deck flush on.
On.
T-minus 10, 9.
Get your rose ka dose.
CSC 1000 Plus. Give your best हर रोज.
Coke उठाओ, स्कैन करो and find the code under the bottle cap. Code के साथ details WhatsApp करो to 032 Coca-Cola. Free match tickets या ढेरों Coke prizes जीतने का मौका पाओ. ये ऑफर Sprite में भी है. Coca-Cola. यकीन की जीत है.
This is the Mars rover Perseverance, the most advanced robot to land on another planet. In this video, we'll take a look at how it was built, the Atlas V launch, the journey to Mars, and the scientific instruments that allow it to study the surface. This video is sponsored by Morning Brew. On February 18th, 2021, the Perseverance rover successfully touched down on Mars. It costs a total of $2.5 billion US. It has many scientific instruments to help just a few weeks apart from each other. Curiosity landed in 2012, and then Perseverance in 2021. Same size as Curiosity, but much more advanced technology. This is not a complete list. This just shows the most recent rovers sent by NASA in the United States. For most of this video, I'll be focusing on Perseverance. NASA designs and builds the rovers in Pasadena, California at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, or JPL for short. This took about 8 years of designing, building, and testing to get Perseverance ready to go. It was built in a clean room that's free from dust or other contaminants. It's designed to work on another planet, different atmosphere, different gravity, and most of all, no repair station. It has to be engineered so well that it can last for years on its own. On top of that, it has to be light and compact so it can fit inside of the launch vehicle. Once it was ready to go, the rover was carefully packaged up and then flown across the United States to Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This is where the launch happened, the same place that NASA has been launching rockets since the 1960s. Perseverance was installed along with several other components that went along for the journey to Mars. We'll talk about each one of these pieces later in the video. This was all put inside of the payload fairing, then taken to the rocket and then lifted up to the very top. This rocket is called an Atlas V. Only 6 months. If we show this with the correct scale, you can barely even see the sun. For this animation, I'm going to show this out of scale so we can see this a little better. For the Earth to get around the sun, it takes exactly 1 year, right? No surprises there. Mars, on the other hand, takes almost 2 years to get around the sun. The best time to launch is right before Earth and Mars are lined up. This is called a launch window, and it happens about every 26 months. Perseverance was launched on July 30th, 2020. The 4 solid rocket boosters use up all their fuel first. At 1 minute 49 seconds, they are jettisoned or separated from the rocket. At 3 minutes 27 seconds, the payload fairing is jettisoned, which exposes the spacecraft. Next up, the main booster runs out of fuel. At 4 minutes 28 seconds, the main booster is to the equator. This is part of the reason why they still launch out of Kazakhstan. The rocket gets a little more of a speed boost. The Soyuz rocket is about 50 meters tall. The Soyuz spacecraft is hidden inside at the very top. This covering is called the launch shroud. This whole rocket is assembled just a few kilometers away from the launch pad. First, we start with the Soyuz spacecraft, inside building 254. There are lots of tests to make sure it works correctly here on the ground. Then the Soyuz spacecraft is turned on its side and loaded into the launch shroud. Remember, this is the part of the rocket at the very top. This is all transported next door to building 112. This is where the Soyuz rocket is assembled in the horizontal position. The rocket is then transported to the launch site on a small train. This process is called the rollout, and it happens 2 or 3 days before the launch. The train moves slow enough that you could walk right next to it. It takes only a few hours to reach the launch pad. There are red protective coverings inside of each rocket engine. These will be removed shortly before the liftoff. The rocket and train will slowly pull up right up next to the launch pad. And the next step is to lift the Soyuz rocket up into the vertical position. 4 support trusses grab hold of the rocket to secure it in place. Then the 2 umbilical towers to supply power and fuel. And then the service towers, which rotate right up next to the side of the rocket. You can see how it has several levels to access different parts of the rocket while on the launch pad. Just for comparison, NASA in the United States builds rockets vertically and then transports them to the launch pad on a large crawler transporter. 2 different ways of doing things, but they both work. Let's talk more about the Soyuz rocket. It's powered by kerosene and liquid oxygen. Here's a view of where the tanks are inside of the rocket. It takes up most of the space. This is a 3-stage rocket. The first stage is made up of 4 side boosters and a central block. The second stage is made up of just the central block, and the third stage is the smaller block right above it. We'll see this in action in just a few minutes. Most of the rocket engines are on the bottom. The larger engines are fixed in place. They don't move at all. But the smaller ones, these are called vernier engines. They can rotate to steer the rocket. There's 2 on each side booster, and then 4 on the central block. Okay, so we have the first stage, second stage, third stage, the launch shroud with the Soyuz spacecraft inside, and at the very top is the launch escape tower. If anything goes wrong on the launch pad, it will lift part of the launch shroud and the top 2 modules of the spacecraft away from the launch pad. The stabilizing grid fins deploy, and then there's also more rocket engines in the launch shroud to lift it even higher. Then the descent module will separate and the crew can parachute safely back down to Earth. On most missions, the launch escape tower isn't needed, however it has saved the lives of the crew on more than one occasion.
Not okay, but okay.
Then they will release the hard dock latches and then detach from the ISS. This is called undocking. The spacecraft will slowly float away. Once they get to a safe distance, the Soyuz thrusters can be used again. The target landing site is back in Kazakhstan. Half an orbit away, on the other side of the Earth, they'll do what's called a deorbit burn. The main engine is fired for about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Notice how the Soyuz is pointed backwards. This slows the Soyuz down so its path will now re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. This is like the Hohmann transfer that they used to reach the ISS.